Hello and welcome to Tuesday's Top Tips. My name is Alicia Ault. I'm your host and founder of LevelUp Score. I'm really excited to bring some content to you I think will be very valuable for you. So stay with me for the next 30 minutes or less because I want to challenge you on something. I want to challenge you on something I hear from a lot of credit professionals, and that is challenging you on why your leads don't convert. A lot of you tell me you just don't have good leads. That's what I hear most often, or your leads aren't serious enough, so that's why you're not converting. And I want to challenge you on that because I am not sure that the problem is your leads in your conversion process. So I want to go over that with you. So again, this is why your leads aren't converting, and it's not the lead. I'm going to give you my conversion system. So I want to go back through the whole truth about conversion. You know, most credit professionals believe they need better leads. These people aren't serious. They just don't convert. And the reality is, in my opinion, is that without process, you can't convert. Every conversation is different. Every experience is inconsistent. Every result is unpredictable. And in doing that, you're not able to convert because you don't actually have a system on what does convert. Okay, what actually converts. So the reality, in my opinion, is it's not the lead, it's the structure. So that's what I want to help you fix today. And, you know, I've seen this time and time again. You can have two different people doing sales, right? And you have one person getting the same leads as the other person, same kind of lead process. And one person might close 5% of those leads, another person 30% or more. Okay. And I don't believe it's magic. I don't believe it's luck. I don't believe that it's the lead itself. I believe that it's the structure. So today I'm going to break down why leads aren't converting, what's actually going wrong in your conversations. That's the key thing I want you to take note of, and how to fix it in a way that shows that you are the professional and helps you convert more of those leads. That is my promise to you today on Tuesday's Top Tips. So stick with me. In 30 minutes or less, I'm going to give you this information. I think it'll be very powerful for you in your business. So we'll start with the 3 reasons you're not converting. And reason number 1 is you start with your sales process. You talk about, I do credit repair, I remove negative items, I send disputes. But clients, they don't want that. They want a home, they want funding, they want approval, they want to feel good about themselves. So as a professional, your job needs to be sell the outcome, not the service. So reason number 1 you're not converting, out of the 3 reasons I'm going to go over, is you start the conversation about you. And the conversation should start around this idea that you're uncertain about what their problem is and they're uncertain in totality of what their problem is. And the idea is you both are getting clarity. So if you think about the conversation as you're both getting clarity on that, then everything starts to make sense and the sale becomes an easier thing. But we start with, we are both uncertain and we're going to create clarity around it. Okay, so that's the first part. So again, the conversation is around, what is the person's goal, right? What's the problem that they're coming to you for? What are they trying to achieve? What's the outcome that they want? So the moment you lead with your services instead of their desired result, you actually weaken that conversation. Because here's the truth about that. Think about this for a moment, if you will. Let's say you're starting the conversation out with services because you assumed you knew the problem. When you do that, and if you're lucky, you got the problem right and they resonate with the service. But in most cases, that's not going to happen. In most cases, you may get the problem wrong and they don't resonate with the service. And because of that, you didn't build trust. When people feel heard, when they feel like you really clearly understand their problem and it can help them clarify and define their problem, they're going to build trust in you that you know what you're talking about. You're the expert and you're going to help them get to their promised land, right? And so that's what I'm challenging on today. People buy movement. They buy outcomes. They buy progress to what actually matters to them, what they actually want. And sometimes you got to help them define that. Okay, so that is reason number 1. You start with your service. I'm challenging you today to change that, and your conversations should be starting with both of you are uncertain and getting clarity around what the problem is. Reason number 2, you don't control the conversation. And I want you to think about this. Think right now about the last conversation you had with a lead. And I'm going to tell you, it probably went something like this. The prospect asks you a question, you answer. They ask you another question. You answer. So you, in essence, are following their lead instead of guiding them to the process. You need to flip that. You lead, they follow. You ask the questions, they answer the questions. You're going to build trust in that process because you're going to be doing more of the listening and more listening and less talking. And they're going to be doing more of the talking and you're going to be doing a lot of the listening. That flips this around. So you do need to control the conversation. It's really important. And that's why you need a process, because without a process, you may be inclined to allow them to continuously ask you questions, right? You need to be asking the questions. You are going to guide the process itself. When you're reacting to conversations, it becomes an unguided conversation and who knows where it goes. But then it usually ends up in conversations where they really talk more about what your process, what your service is. And it doesn't guide them to the realization of what their problem is and what the outcome looks like for them. And that's what you need to, that's the picture that you're creating in this conversation. Here's where you're at. Here's the problem. We're clarifying and defining the problem. And now we know, because we know what the problem is, we know what the gap is. And guess what? I know the solution to getting you across that gap. And now I get to build with you the belief that, number one, that you believe I can help you get to your goal on the other side of that gap. And number two, that you yourself can do the program and get to the other side. I've talked about this many times, and so I go into great detail on how you can do that, but just know that that's the process. But in order to do that, you're going to have to lead the conversation and they're going to follow the conversation so that you're guiding them through that process. So that's reason number two, you don't control the conversation. Reason number three, you don't create the gap. Okay. So they can't see where they are versus where they need to be. What's missing? Why am I not already over here? I want this, but I'm here. What's missing? You got to acknowledge and help them see clearly that there is something missing. There's a gap from where they're at to where they want to go. Now, this is not a throw up session about all the problems on their credit report or all the problems that they have with their finances. This is not what that means. It means to say, hey, you're over here and you're unsure of the next moves, the next steps, the next things you need to do to get over here. We just know that you can't get here right now. Fair? You got denied for the home loan process, those types of things. So we're going to move you over here. And I have that journey. So that's what you're doing. You're just creating this gap. You're showing it clearly. That creates clarity, which creates urgency, which creates trust in you. And it helps you guys to define this gap and getting to this other process. And they can see that it's something that they can actually do. And that's really important. When there is no visible gap for your clients, there's no reason for them to move. Raise your hand and put a little emoji up, something. Have you been in a situation where a client comes to you, they want to buy a home, let's say, and they got denied for a home loan. They were referred to you to figure out what they need to do in order to be able to be approved for the home loan. And the first thing they say to you is something like, well, I'll just go to another lender. I think that lender just is too hard, or they don't understand, or they got the wrong score, or whatever, instead of realizing that there's a gap between where they're at and where they want to go. So the challenge is helping them see that. It's not that another loan officer is going to say yes and when this one said no. That's very rare. Okay. It happens, right? So you get different levels of professionalism in everything that you do, but in most cases, there's a gap the person has to sit with and understand. And that's where you come in as a credit professional and as a salesperson to say, hey, I'm going to show you, or consultant, however you want to name yourself, I'm going to show you that gap that's missing, but I also have a journey to fix and fill that gap, right? And so I think that is a really important step in the process. And so that's reason number three. So I told you I was going to give you 3 reasons why you're not converting. Hope this resonated with you. Now I got more because I'm going to show you my conversion framework. So if one of these things is broken, one of these things is mixing, what is the fix? How do we fix that? The fix is not going to be more pressure on that client. Okay. The fix is not being more salesy, and the fix is not being, the know-it-all, throwing up on them and making them feel bad for all the mistakes they ever made. That's not the fix. The fix is structure. So I'm going to show you that structure and how that looks. So you have a defined structure on the next conversation you have with one of your leads coming in. And this is what I call the fix, the conversion structure, the 5-step framework. We have goal, we have problem, we have gap, we have solution, and we have offer. I'm going to take you through each one of those steps. So let's call this step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. I'll walk you through each of these steps so you are crystal clear of this conversion structure framework. So let's go on to step number 1, which is the goal. Ask, what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to buy a home? When? The idea here is you want to enter into their world. You want to get very clear in step 1 of this conversion framework. You want to get very clear of where they're at, what the problem is, and what they want. Okay. Very clear, because that's the only way. By getting clear here, can you identify that there's a gap, something that you can truly fix to get them to their goal. Okay. So this is a very important part of the process. This is step 1, goal. Where are they at? Because the new conversation is about their destination, not the service that you're going to provide. That's the conversation. So if you can ask them questions about their goal and get deeper into the why and all these things, you're going to have a better chance of helping them get to their goal than you would if you didn't. Fair? And they will know, like, and trust you because of that. Step number 2 is really identifying the problem, asking questions like, what's holding you back? Have you tried anything before? You want to let them talk. You want to help build emotion and trust in you by doing this. So that's step 2. You want to identify what's currently blocking them from getting to their goal. So we identified the goal. Now we're identifying the problem. What's holding them back? What's keeping them from moving forward? What's keeping them from getting approved? Okay. And you're going to help them to help you identify that problem. You're not throwing up on them and giving them, here's your problem. Okay. This is where you're allowing them to get clarity on what their problem is. What have you already tried? What keeps happening when you apply for a home loan? You're building on this, and you're taking them back in time, quite frankly, to that emotional feeling of getting denied for, say, their home loan or whatever that might be that they're trying to do. And then step 3 is the gap. So you're going to share the current position, the target outcome, and what's missing. And this is where you truly win. And so those of you guys who use LevelUp Score already know this, but if you're not using LevelUp Score, you can actually go in and it's going to generate a structured action plan. We're not talking about a generic action plan. We're talking about a structured action plan specifically tailored for your client to get to their goal. The strategy, what needs to happen, not how high we get the credit score, because that might not be a factor. It might have nothing to do with what the goal is, right? It might have a little to do. Maybe it's the overall profile, right? There's a lot of things you're looking at. And sometimes it's not even the credit report itself. It's all the financial health markers, the debt to income ratio, do you have a savings account? Do you have reserves? All of those things are part of this process, and LevelUp Score helps you with that and showing them exactly what needs to happen for them. But this also visually demonstrates the gap. So let's say I'm in this conversation. I know what their goal is. We've identified the problem. We've actually sent their credit report through LevelUp Score. We now have an action plan. If I'm on a call with them, or I'm doing a Loom video or whatever that might be, I can quickly show them, hey, here's where we're at, and here's the gap. Here's all the things that need to be done in order to get you over here. Again, this is not a throw up session. This is not, these are all the bad things that you did. And here, this is why it's keeping you from it. It's not that. This is more of a solution conversation, but it's saying, hey, there is a gap and there are things that need to happen to get you over here. But it's not a throw up on you, all the mistakes you had. It's a solution conversation. And I think that's really important, because no one wants to feel like they're this horrible person. And oftentimes in sales, we think that that's the way that we're going to get them to sign up, if we make them feel so bad about all the things they've done. That's not the goal. And then step 4, of course, is solution. So we say something like, here's what needs to happen to get you there. Clear, direct, confident. We're letting them know, here are the steps. I have this plan for you that I'll be presenting to you when you work with me, and we'll go through this plan. I will be your expert, your support person through this plan. But we've already laid out the plans. We already know what needs to happen next. And we're going to figure out what's the best thing for you to do first, second, third, right? So you're providing that solution ultimately to get them. But the solution should not be vague ideas. It should not be general encouragement. It should be a real path. And you can do that through LevelUp Score. And this is where you ultimately will earn authority. You'll ultimately earn their trust and respect that you are the expert, and they can see, hey, You really know what you're talking about. You have a clear plan for me. This is not just you behind the scenes doing things that I have no idea if it's going to help me or if it's not going to help me. Okay. And of course, step number 5 is going to be the offer. Now, it's not stuff like, do you want credit repair? It's here's how we can execute the plan. I had the plan. You just saw that I have the plan. Here's how we can execute the plan. I'm going to deliver this plan to you, and I'm going to be your support person. We are going to execute on this plan. And by executing on this plan, I'm going to help you get to your goal. I've done it 100 times. I've done it 1,000 times. I've done it 1,000,000 times, right? This is what most people who are in your position have me do. We create the plan, and I support and help you execute on the plan. And I always like to say, I help you execute on the plan. But because let's be fair, most things on a plan for any credit improvement is going to be the responsibility of the consumer, not you as a professional. You are not the hero. You are not the hero. You are like the personal trainer who says, I got the solution for you. Here's how you execute. I will support you in the execution of this process. But when that person loses the weight or gains the muscle, whatever that is, they are going to be the hero for themselves. And that's the same way we should look at it as a credit professional. You want them to walk out and like, I did this, uplift them, empower them. That's part of our job. It's not to make them feel like, okay, if I have a problem again, I'm going to have to use them. I have no idea what just happened. You think that's good because you think that maybe, or some people think that's good. I shouldn't say you because it's probably not you, but some people think that's good. Hey, I'm going to do everything behind the scenes. It's proprietary information. I don't want them to know how I did it. I'm just going to do disputes and I'm going to hopefully get them to their goal and they're going to be happy. But they're going to be left with this sense of feeling of, I don't know what to do next. If I need this person again, I'm going to have to come back. I would rather have the client that feels super empowered. I did this. I executed on the plan, which I love to tell people, hey, you're executing on the plan. Congratulations. Let's keep trucking. Let's keep doing it. And they keep doing it. And that shows what that does is I actually do get them to their goal. They tell everybody they know about me, right? They're super excited. I executed the plan. They feel empowered. They feel uplifted. They feel happy and joyful. All the things we want everyone to feel, and we want to feel ourselves. So why don't we give that gift to someone else? And so I hope that that's something that you guys will consider as you're working with your clients. So those are the 3 things that are keeping you, right? We talked about the 3 reasons you're not converting. We talked about now the conversion process, right? That model, the 5-step process. So let's talk about something a little bit different. Let's talk about how you enter them into the program. Okay. Now, this model I like to talk about because a lot of us will say things, we're kind of selling them on doing credit monitoring in order to get the next part of the process. And then I hear a lot, people always say, well, I'm giving them the $1 trial. So they'll actually do something. And I'm going to suggest that that's not the way to do it. So I'm going to give you some information here and hopefully some scripts to help you with. But step 1 is the strategy setup. Quote, credit monitoring, put parentheses, credit monitoring. Credit monitoring is needed for this part of the process, okay? But we're going to talk about it in a different way to the consumer. Step 2 is analysis and plan, and step 3 is the service offer. Okay, so this is the model. This is the paid entry model that I'm hoping that you'll adopt. So how to position it. Number 1, you don't want to say stuff like sign up for credit monitoring so I can look at your credit. We have a $1 trial. If you don't want to use us, that's fine. After the $1 trial, you have 7 days. You can cancel at any time, right? You have 7 days to cancel it. You won't be charged anything else. That's what I usually hear credit professionals say. And trust me, I know because I ask. How do you, one of my biggest questions when you come to coaching with me, talk to me about if I came to you, what's the steps and how are we going to do this? And most often that's what I hear. Hey, get on the credit monitoring, $1 trial. Let me look at your credit report, blah, 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 right? And I would say that I would recommend that you don't do it that way because it sounds like a task that they have to do. It sounds like a hoop. It sounds like a requirement. It sounds like extra work. And you've already set them up to think that credit monitoring is not important. And throw some emojis up if you agree with me that credit monitoring is important. People should have credit monitoring. There's a lot of value in making sure you're looking at your credit all the time. Identity theft is prevalent. I can go on and on and on about why I think it's important that people have credit monitoring. So if we say get on the $1 trial to get credit monitoring, we're already setting ourselves up to number 1, it's not very important. I just need it for me. right? It's an extra step you have to go through, because then you're going to have people be like, well, I have this credit report from Credit Karma, or I have this or that. So I have a different approach for you that I would like to go over with you, and hopefully this resonates for you. So here's the positioning that I think works really well. And I'm going to kind of read this off of my notes here. The first step is a full credit and approval strategy session to work with me. In order for me to do that properly, I need access to your full 3-bureau credit report. We'll use secure credit monitoring. I use a secure credit monitoring platform through XYZ that gives me visibility. That gives me the visibility that I need to complete a real analysis and build out your next steps. Once that is set up, I can map out exactly what needs to happen for you to reach your goal. Okay. This is a very different conversation at that point, right? Now the report access is connected to a strategy outcome. Okay. Rather than, hey, I'll give a free consultation, just sign up for my credit monitoring $1 trial. Okay. Now, the first step of working with me, we're going to do a full credit and financial strategy session together. So in order for us to do that, I will need you to get started with our credit monitoring. We use a 3-bureau credit report that gives me a full picture of everything about your credit, so I can complete a complete analysis of your credit and create a detailed plan for you. Okay. This really stops a lot of people in the tracks. I have had people come to me and say, well, I already have a credit report from my loan officer. I love when they say that, because my rebuttal for that is, great, I'm glad that you got that from your loan officer, but here's the thing. They're using a tri-merge credit report. That's not going to be helpful for what we need to do together. I need to see each individual credit report side by side when I'm doing this detailed help for you. Okay. Which is really important. You do need that, by the way. If you're doing credit repair on a tri-merge, you're missing a lot of information to help that person. So you do need that, number one. Another thing that they might say is, I got Credit Karma. We all know that Credit Karma doesn't give us all 3. We're missing one. You can talk to any loan officer or lender that you want to, and most of them will tell you that they need to look at all 3, because one might be missing some very important details, right? 2 might be missing some very important details. I've had loan officers tell me quite often, they'll do a pre-approval based off of one credit report, then later pull the other 2 and find out they can't even do the loan. So they don't like surprises. I don't like surprises. No one likes surprises. So that's another way that you can have that conversation of how important that is to get on the credit monitoring that you need. Sometimes I'll also say, hey, by the way that I create my plans and my strategies, I use a software, and that software analyzes this credit report. It learned how to read this one's full raw data credit report, and it doesn't have that knowledge for these other ones, right? So that's another way that you might be able to explain it. So just want to make sure that you understand that that's how you can position that. You don't want to downgrade your credit monitoring by saying stuff like, get on the $1 trial. Okay. You've already made it sound like credit monitoring is not important. I would rather them to be very open that credit monitoring is important. It's really important. And if they say stuff like they already have credit monitoring, then question them, okay, who do you have credit monitoring through? Okay. And of course, we all know if it's like Credit Karma, we know the rebuttal for that. But maybe they already have credit monitoring through one of the vendors that would give a tri-merge. You can still say, hey, that's great. I'm glad you have that. Unfortunately, we do need to use my approved vendor because of the software that I use to analyze everything. Otherwise, if we do use the one that you're using, I'll have to manually do everything. I'm happy to do that for you, but my charge for that is an upcharge of this much per month. I've done that before because it's true. If I have to manually do anything, you're going to pay a lot bigger price for that. Fair. And then, I've said before when I changed it and I wouldn't do manual work, I would say something like, yeah, unfortunately, we have to use mine because it works with my software. If we use yours, I would have to do things manually. And I used to just say, hey, I'll charge you an extra $200 a month to do it manually. But unfortunately, I actually don't even accept manual clients anymore. I have so many clients to help build, and I just don't have time to do manual work anymore. So I kind of changed my thought on that. But at one point, I did allow them to upgrade at a higher cost to a manual one. Okay. Hopefully that helps you in your process. So what we want to structure this around is what they're really paying for. With that credit monitoring, they're paying for credit monitoring. Okay. They're paying for your expertise, your analysis, your strategy, your plan. Okay. So if we start with that, instead of start with, hey, get your credit monitoring, and they feel like they're paying for credit monitoring, and they're getting a free consultation. No, you're not giving a free consultation. You are giving a strategy session for them. By the way, we need this credit monitoring. Okay. You're not saying free. You're saying, I'm going to give a strategy session. You don't need to say free, quite frankly, because why do you want to give anything for free, right? People who get free things don't tend to appreciate the free thing. Okay. You're also keeping people, you're allowing people to come into your system who may not be able to afford your services. Or even if I gave the services for free, but you need to take action, they might not take the action, right? And so revamp how you're talking, and they're paying for your expertise and your analysis, not the credit monitoring. The credit monitoring is the access point to be able to get your expertise. Okay, hope that helps you. So why this works so well. When you do it this way, you filter for serious clients. This is important. Dollar trial could mean not serious clients. I can't tell you how many times people have said to me they couldn't pay a dollar trial when I had one, right? So again, that told me, hey, you can't even pay $1. I can't help you. I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm not the right place for you, because there's certain actions you're going to have to take that is going to require money. And if you can't even do $1, then there's something else you need to do first, AKA make more money, or whatever that might be, right? So we're going to filter for those serious buyers. It positions you as a professional. You're not free. You're an expert. You're just not free. It creates commitment from them. They're on the credit monitoring. You never have to say cancel this, because you're already built into your process that credit monitoring is important, whether they work with you or not. Okay. And I have a whole nother class on the whole process of getting people on your credit monitoring and keeping them forever. And I call that my graduation program. So even after they're done working with you, I challenged someone actually today on having a sponsor code and paying for someone's credit monitoring. I'm going to tell you, don't do that. Again, filter for serious clients. You want people on credit monitoring forever because you see it as value. So if you see it as so valuable, why are you paying it for them? And then it gets canceled when you're done with your program. Then you have to try to get them to get on to credit monitoring after the program. They didn't see it as very valuable during the program because you didn't make them pay for it then. And you can say, I wrapped it up in my payment. Still the same problem. Okay. So also creates commitment. And it makes your final sale easier because that part's already out of the way. It's one less step to get started in your full service program. Okay, so here is the full conversation flow, the system. You have a goal, you have a strategy set up, credit monitoring in parentheses, creating the analysis and plan. You can do that through LevelUp Score, and then you offer the services. So by the time you make the offer, they already trust you. They're already invested. They're already invested. They see the gap, and the sell becomes natural. I've seen people, because they were already invested, that they at least worked with me for 1 month. They already invested in 1 month of credit monitoring. Why not invest in 1 month of service at least? And of course, if you're really good at your job, if they know they're already invested, and I think, oh, I'll just do it at least for 1 month, then of course you're doing a really good job moving forward, building additional trust. They see that you're doing what you promised, and they're going to stay on, obviously. So how LevelUp Score fits in, of course, LevelUp Score helps you build this whole process with a structure, right? You show, you guide, you prove. It is transparent. This is really important. It empowers them. That's very important. It's important to me. I know it's important to you. How do you feel anytime you work with someone who's empowered you versus someone who handed you something? It's a different feeling. You know it is. So if you like to feel empowered, wouldn't you think that your clients would like to feel empowered, and how much better they're going to feel about themselves because